Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome to Orchids in Bloom. It is time to look back at the orchids that I personally liked the most this month, or should I say the previous month because it's already March, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit about them. Hopefully they will inspire something new for your wish list. As always, do let me know in a comment down below which one was your favorite, or if you have multiple favorites, let me know in the comment section. And before we start, don't forget to give this video a like if you end up enjoying it, and hey, why not subscribe? I post multiple times a week and it's completely free. And once a month, I do post Orchids in Bloom. I know I have some very huge fans of Orchids in Bloom. Raise your hands, let me see you. But if you're feeling a little extra and you can, do consider further supporting the channel by becoming a member and getting access to some exclusive videos such as Orchid Spotlights. Also, you can use the affiliate links down below. Check out the merch. We have beautiful mugs at the moment, or use the super thanks option down below my videos. Right, so with that said, without further ado, let us get to the orchids and see who was in bloom in February. First off, Paphiopedilum venustum. As I said in a previous video, this is my favorite Paphiopedilum, not only for the looks, which I think we can all agree he looks absolutely fantastic, but also for his speed of growth. Slipper orchids, or Paphiopedilums, are not really known to grow very fast. They can bloom not on a yearly basis, but something like every 2 years, every 3 years, depending on the species. Well, this guy blooms, I would say, about once a year or so, because the fans actually mature within a year. And speaking about the fans, he has a beautiful mottling pattern on his leaves, unlike many others that I have in my collection. In my opinion, he's special, and that beautiful pouch he has on the flower is just to die for. There is no fragrance. Slippers are not known for their fragrance. I've never had a slipper that was fragrant, not even the Delenati, which is supposed to be. That's besides the point. So if you are sensitive to fragrances, slippers might be a good solution for you. You kind of just have to have patience for them. But for this guy, I think you won't have to stress too much, and I think you will enjoy him. So definitely, if you're considering Paphiopedilums, I think this should be on your wish list. Next up, here is the epitome of fluffy Cattleyas. This is Rhyncholaeliocattleya Village Chief Armani, Red Dragon. She's a stylish one, isn't she? Well, yeah, she really is. And as Maya puts it, she is huge. Here is a comparison next to my hand, and I swear the camera does not do it justice. She is huge in reality. Now, this is a first blooming in my care. This is a newer orchid. It's from the orchid hauls from last year. I bet she can put out 2 to 3 flowers, but a first flower on a first pseudobulb grown in my care, I'm okay with it. Now, this is of course a fragrant Cattleya. Most fluffy Cattleyas are fragrant, and I can only describe her as very rosy or lily-like, very typical Cattleya fragrance. And that color is absolutely gorgeous. It's a sort of a burgundy red. In reality, it's slightly darker, but the camera is trying to compensate a little bit, as it always does. I cannot control these settings. I don't use special settings for my camera. It's just what it sees. And yeah, the coloration is a little bit darker in reality, but what I like most about it, besides of course the flower and the fragrance, is the fact that it's not a very big, unruly and tall Cattleya. Actually, I do consider the pseudobulbs and leaves to be rather stumpy, rather short and a little bit more wide, which I absolutely adore about it. I think she's absolutely adorable, and she doesn't take up a lot of space. So definitely something to consider for your wish list if you've always dreamed about a magical fluffy Cattleya that does not take half of the living room, pretty much. This is your girl. Next up, well, here's an orchid that you might say it's scorched, but it's not. It's Phalaenopsis mannii dark crust speciosa. And this is how it gets under my grow lights. She's not even residing under natural light or very, very bright light, but it is a trait of this particular hybrid. Now, the flowers are super dark red and gorgeous as well, but I think the showpiece with this orchid are the leaves. They are so dark, and not only the leaves but also the flower spikes as well. Do you see? But anyway, let's get back to the flowers. They are indeed really, really beautiful and really dark. I like the fuzzy lip, which is most likely coming from the speciosa parent. Fragrance-wise, there is a fragrance there. I can only describe it as woody and a little spicy, but don't get too excited. I don't think it's a wonderful fragrance in any way, shape, or form, but it's not really repulsive either. It's more of a naturally woody, a little sting type of a fragrance, if you know what I'm saying. Probably not, but luckily it's not very strong, so don't get too excited about the fragrance when it comes to this particular one. What, honey? That's the danger call. I think she saw a crow. Yep, there's a crow outside. Back to the orchid. But if you do enjoy this really weird gothic, let's say, like appearance on the leaves plus the flowers, I think this is a wonderful hybrid to have. It's not finicky, takes the same care as any other polychilous type of Phalaenopsis, a summer bloomer nonetheless. I happen to have warmth pretty much at all times here in the grow room, even if in the winter it's a little colder. So mine bloom pretty much all the year, but you can expect flowers mostly in the warmer months with these orchids. So definitely something to consider if you want a more gothy type of a plant and you don't mind the lack of fragrance or the odor, let's put it like that. Next up, another new orchid that I'm very excited about. This is a Dendrobium, Patricia van Puyenbroeck. Now, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. Please excuse me. I think it's a Dutch name. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me in the comments. But this is a complex hybrid made mostly out of Australian dendrobiums, such as Kingianum, Speciosum, Tetragonum. And I have to say, I love it. I love this shape of flowers. Now, this type of dendrobium only blooms once a year, typically in springtime, after a bit of a cooler period in the winter time. We call it a break because we don't water as often, we definitely don't fertilize at all, and we offer as low temperatures as we can. This one was residing outside and it got to experience nights of 7 to 8 degrees Celsius. It doesn't get much colder than that here, very rarely 5 or 6 degrees Celsius. So it's a mild winter, but it's enough to determine some blooms. Now, there is also a fragrance with this orchid. Again, I cannot say it's a very perfumey or wonderful scent. To me, it smells a little like hyacinths, but not as great. So hyacinths crossed with ink, something like that, which is very bizarre. I don't mind the fragrance. I'm not in love with it, but I am in love with the beauty of the flowers. They're so tiny and dainty and whimsical. I want to have a full collection of Australian type dendrobiums or hybrids with Australian dendrobiums. They're for some reason not as common here in Europe, not as easy to find. So wherever I find one, I purchase it and I'm just so happy with it. So let me know if you guys have this orchid. It's something quite, I don't want to say rare, but quite uncommon here, not as popular, but I absolutely adore it. I think it's the most charming little dendrobium of life. Next up, oldie but goldie here, and many of you know it, Procatavola Golden Peacock. I think I showed it to you last month as well, but now the second flower spike is in bloom. Excuse my birds, they're very happy. It's that time of the year when they're wooing each other. So Procatavola Golden Peacock with its 2 flower spikes in full glory right now. This is a very prolific bloomer, blooms multiple times a year. I always include it in the list of must-haves for easy Cattleya types, suitable for home growing and windowsills because they're not very tall, they're not very large. They grow multiple growths per year and they can become bushy, so you might have to do a little bit of tidying up, but not excessive, and they just reward you with bloom after bloom after bloom. And look at that! It's such a wonderful Brassavola star-shaped flower. Bonus, it can be a little fragrant in the nighttime. This is not one of those that releases a lot of fragrance from the Brassavola hybrid parent, but it's something there in the morning, sometimes, not all the time. It's not a very fragrant orchid, and I can tell you 10 more that kind of look like this, that are more fragrant, but when it comes to vigorousness and the frequency of blooming, I think the Golden Peacock is undefeated. It also goes through a mild color change. When it first opens, it's a more bronzy type of orange, and those dots are more vivid. But anyway, I think you will like it. It can stay in bloom for a long time as well, definitely a few weeks. I don't have enough good words to say about it, but I think she's a keeper. Next up, we have a whole bunch of Tolumnias, and honestly, Tolumnias are pretty much all the same but different at the same time. So no matter the name, no matter the hybrid, no matter the variety, they are all beautiful and they all have a wonderful, very impressive flower spike in comparison to the entire orchid. Colors can vary, and I've seen Tolumnias of all colors, especially on the internet, except black and blue perhaps, but you can find Tolumnias in reds, purples, pinks, white, brown, red, orange. Did I say orange? Brown? Did I say brown? I think I've stated all of the colors. All sorts of dotted patterns, all sorts of nice intricate designs on the flowers, and even with individuals of the same variety you can have a little bit of difference, because I believe, it is my suspicion, that most of these are obtained through seeds and they will not all be the same. So even with the exact same, let's say, hybrid, you can have a bit of variety, which is always exciting. And by the way, I'm showing you some of these Tolumnias at the end of their flowering, let's say, when you can see how the color changes. When they first open, of course, they have a more vivid color, but as they age, the color can change a little bit and can get a little more diluted, but it doesn't become like very faded. So I wanted to show you this so you see how they eventually become. They're still beautiful. Now, there is a little bit of variation between these hybrids, not too much, when it comes to flower shape and flower size. You can see some of them have a wider skirt, some of them have more tiny flowers. They're not so opulent as others, but they're all overall very beautiful and special, and I cannot get enough of them. You'll have a care tutorial for beginners down below with Tolumnias. They're not hard to keep. They're a little hard to understand in my opinion because of all of the information on the internet, which, by the way, does not apply to everybody. For sure it can apply to some people, but for example to me it doesn't apply. You'll never see somebody telling you to put Tolumnias in self-watering. Well, I cannot live with them not in self-watering, you know? So treat them like epiphytes with sensitive roots. I think that's the best way of putting it, and I think you should be fine. Next up, here we have another beautiful Cattleya. This is Crystelle NR, which we had in bloom before, and it's a newer orchid that I purchased last year, I do believe. Well, it bloomed again. As I said in my spotlight video, I told you that I do suspect this orchid will bloom multiple times a year because it grows fast, and yes, it absolutely does. That beautiful lavender color and the wonderful contrast with the lip is just amazing. By the way, this is a mini Cattleya, so it's very friendly to home environments and windowsills, and it's not very picky with humidity and anything of the sorts. I also grow it under artificial light, not natural light, so it's an easy miniature Cattleya, not fragrant. I know some people say it has a fragrance, mine absolutely doesn't, so it might be something with my individual, or just that certain environments manage to bring out the fragrance. Mine is not fragrant, so if you're sensitive to fragrance, this is the orchid for you. I think it's just so charming, and that contrast between the lavender and yellow, it's not very common in the orchid world. So I think she's special, and I think she will absolutely brighten your day. Definitely worth putting on the wish list. Next up, an orchid we didn't see for a long time, and this is because I lost mine to thrips, but I got another one in the meantime. This is Epicattleya Rene Marques Flamethrower. This is the orchid that I told you that has only 3 colors on the flowers, but somehow looks like a rainbow of colors because they're just so vivid and just so contrasting with each other. Look at that, green, purple, and a wonderful golden yellow. I dare say the most wonderful golden yellow I have ever seen on an orchid. it's on this orchid. I am pretty speechless when it comes to this particular hybrid. Always loved it, always had it in my collection, and when I lost it I immediately purchased a new one because I do enjoy it so much. Now this is a bit of a taller orchid. She's an epidendrum hybrid, so you will need a little bit of space for it. It's not necessarily the most compact either. If you know ridge stem epidendrums, yeah, that's pretty much how this one grows as well, but she is a very vigorous hybrid. Very easy to grow in home conditions if you have the space. It kind of takes the same care as Cattleya orchids. It needs bright light, it loves warmth, but I do believe she is a great house pet because she doesn't demand much more than that. And those flowers, they are absolutely amazing, not fragrant, blooms once a year when the pseudobulb matures, when the cane matures, but I think she's well worth the wait because I think it's something unique in any orchid collection. So definitely put it on the wish list if you like unique looking like flowers. And lastly, here we have another oldie but goldie. This particular orchid is indeed older in my collection, the Purple Cascade Fragrant Beauty. I think I told you the story with how I first saw my first Cattleya in one of Brad's videos. It was this one, and he said it was fragrant, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And ever since she grew in pure sphagnum moss and got proper hydration, she started to smell so much better. Smells like candy now, not that rosy scent, which was a little washy-washy in the past. No, she has a very nice, pretty powerful candy, sugary scent to it now. I'm just so happy. It has history for me. It's the orchid, or the Cattleya orchid, that made me fall in love with Cattleyas and want Cattleyas. And I spent quite a bit of time looking for it at the beginning, but I have this one for many years and it has always bloomed year after year, or almost year after year. It's a vigorous orchid. It's kind of tall, kind of unruly, but I think the flowers are worth it. I absolutely love the contrast with the purple and white, and best of all, I do love the fragrance, which is so mouth-watering, very candy-like, reminds me of childhood. So yeah, this one is quite an oldie, but I think it's a staple in many orchid collections, particularly Cattleya collections. So with that said, let me know which of these orchids made it to your wish list, which ones you would like to have the most, and if you have any of them, which one and what is your experience with it. Alrighty then, so thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me today and watching all of these orchids in bloom, and I hope you'll have a great day and wonderful orchids. I'll see you next time. Bye!